Let us take a look at a journey to the west, the west, the west. The teaching that we're going to cover today is under the title The Yangzab Ningpo. Now you can see a photo over there, and the story behind it is that back at that time, Ponsu Rinpoche lived at Atiling in Napa Valley, and he would commute to Lincoln Theater to teach for 11 days, and every day he was received like this by the disciples. On the afternoon of July 17th, Yijin conferred the Yangzab Ningpo empowerment of Vajrakilaya, term reviewed by the great Tertong Lirab Lingpa. Before the empowerment, Rinpoche gave the following history. In ancient times, when the 8 Vidyadharas of India gathered at the Shankarakuta stupa, each received a casket that contained a particular division of the Drukpa Kakyu, the 8 great sadhana teachings. Mainly, this is practiced by the Nyingma. By practicing the corresponding teachings that each of them received, they became the respective lineage holders of each division of the Drukpa Kakyu. At the time they received the caskets, there was one additional casket containing the teaching of the 8 divisions, which they were not able to open, so it was placed back inside of the Shankarakuta stupa and buried it once again. At later time, Guru Pamasambhava revealed this casket that contained all 8 divisions from the center of the Shankarakuta stupa. Then at the Red Rock Cave at Chimpu, the solitary place near the glorious Samya Monastery, Guru Rinpoche then conferred the complete empowerment of the gathering of the Sukhatas of the 8 transmitted precepts to his 9 heart disciple sons, including the king and ministers. The 8 great deities include 5 wisdom deities, which are Yamantaka, enlightened body; Hairgrava, enlightened speech; Yandak, Haruka, enlightened mind; Chamchuk, Haruka, enlightened qualities; and Vajrakilaya, enlightened activity, as well as the 3 worldly deities. One of which the activity is to call for and dispel the activities of the non-humans, and the other one is to have fierce power of the mantra, also to make offerings and praises to the 4 births. During the empowerment, Guru Pamasambhava entrusted the transmission of Vajrakilaya to his consort Yeshe Tsokyo. Then one of King Trisanditsan's foremost ministers, the accomplished mantra practitioner Nanam Dorje Dudram, the indestructible subduer of Mara, repeatedly implored the great Khandra Yeshe Tsokyo to transmit the teaching of Vajrakilaya to him. Yeshe Tsokyo then hastened and sent a message to him saying, "The time has not yet come for me to transmit the Vajrakilaya teachings, so you should prepare extensive offerings for a Ganachakra feast," and directly requested from Guru Rinpoche. Following Yeshe Tsokyo's advice, Namam Dorje Dudram gathered together fine and excellent offerings for the Tok offerings, and all of those feast offerings amazed all the neighboring districts, and he requested Vajrakilaya teachings from Guru Rinpoche. Successfully, he received the transmission of the entire cycle of Vajrakilaya. When Nanam Dorje cast his flower into the mandala during the empowerment, the flower fell upon the deity Vajrakilaya, as it had happened when Yeshe Tsokyo originally received the empowerment from Guru Pamasambhava. From then on, in the land of snows, Nanam Dorje Dudram's power and proficiency became unrivaled, and he was appointed to be the head of those sacred mantra practitioners using the drum and purbas. Well, last year we had already made the replica of the purba of Ponsu Rinpoche and distributed to everyone, and I've heard that there are people who are reselling those for a very high price. Anyhow, those of you who have those purbas can be considered as sacred mantra practitioner or Nagpa. Well, for that particular dependent on rising because of such auspicious interdependence, all the successive tertons who were reincarnations of Nanam Dorje Dodruma would reveal cycles of hidden treasure teachings on Vajrakilaya. Prior reincarnation of Nanam Dorje Dodruma, including Rinzin Godam, the Vajradhara vulture feathers, that's the meaning of his name, Rinzin Pema Tinli, the main holder of the northern treasure tradition, and more. The most recent reincarnation was Nanam Dorje Dodruma, was the great turtle Sogye Lera Limpa, also known as Nyala Sogye, who was born in the upper Nyarong in Kham area. Being a learned and highly accomplished Mahasiddha, Turtle Sogye was particularly noted for his complete master over the process of revealing Terma doctrines and Terma objects without any confusion or complications. Of all termas that Turtle Sogye revealed, the most essential ones are the cycles concerning Vajrakilaya practices. There are three main Vajrakilaya terma cycles revealed by Turtle Sogye. The most extensive one is called the Yangsan Trupa, the quintessential secret wrathful Vajrakilaya. And then the one of middling length cycle is called the Yangning Potri, the razor of innermost essence, and the most concise of the shortest cycle is called Yangzab Ningpo, the profound quintessential heart essence of Vajrakilaya. From the time they were reviewed, these term cycles have been continuously transmitted till this day. When Tuku Lungto were giving us empowerments, he also asked if people would make aspiration to practice this, and it was required in the 20 monasteries in Tibet that during Panzo Rinpoche's time, they were required to practice this continuously. At Doma Monastery, my monastery, we would practice it for 9 days continuously. The Yangzab Ningpo. Back in April, Toku Lungto also bestowed an empowerment to all of them. And about 1986, some of the monasteries would continuously to practice this all the way till now. It is not that everyone has to practice it because it's very difficult, other than someone who holds pure precepts would practice it. Others who do not hold pure precepts would be punished by the Dakini. So this is a very secret teaching. Some of even the turtles during their time of living, they would not give teachings on it. Back in 1989, I went to a small monastery in Dampa, and Panzo Rinpoche said that if we were to practice that, that would be really great. So we went to a cave where Turton Limpa practiced, and practiced on this sadhana for 4 days. And at that time, since a few old lamas just passed away, there were just about a dozen of us who practiced on this particular teaching constantly, and the blessings was great. The power of blessings is really great. This is the teaching that is of a great secret, and not everyone could practice it. Also, this particular teaching can be practiced by the lay practitioners as well as the monastics. There was another Vajrakilaya terma composed by Lera Limpa, very short. Since you have received so many empowerments, I think you can also receive it. Not so sure if it's translated, but I think it's important for you to receive this. Generally speaking, if an individual receives the empowerment of any of these 3 cycles of Vajrakilaya, they can practice all 3. On this particular occasion, I will confer the Yangzab Ningpo empowerment, gathering the essential points of the vast cycle of Vajrakilaya.
甚深金藏觉的灌顶，灌顶，也行吧。我看
Next one is on the 37 Precepts of the Bodhisattvas. Let's take a look at this. Now let's look at the merit of the 37 practice or precept of the Bodhisattvas. When the empowerment was complete, Choji then gave the oral transmission of the 37 practices of Bodhisattva to all participants. He briefly introduced the text as follows. During the past 9 days, I have given you the empowerments and instructions of the great perfection that can ripen your mind stream and bring you to liberation. As I mentioned earlier, it is important for you to focus entirely on the practice of Dzogchen. For those who are not able to practice or who don't know how to practice Dzogchen, or those who also want to study and practice the Dharma stage by stage as well as the practice of Dzogchen, they should follow the Bodhisattva path. The core teaching of the Bodhisattva path lies in the 37 practices of Bodhisattva. Now I will give you the oral transmission for the text. I have given you this many times, so it is not necessary for me to repeat this. The author of 37 practices of Bodhisattva is Tokme Zampo, the emanation of Vajrakilaya. In the place where he lived when animals who were natural enemies of each other, such as sheep, wolves, hawks, and sparrows, do not prey upon each other, but rather cared for each other, behaved in harmony, and played together. He was such a remarkable bodhisattva that the size of his perfection of bodhicitta was expressed in the external environment. Regarding the merit of this particular practice, there is no need to mention the benefit and advantage of putting it into practice. Just even hearing its words alone can plant the seeds of liberation in mind stream. The words of the text are fairly easy to understand, and its practice is not difficult to implement. Even without a teacher to explain the meaning, you would find it easy to understand simply by reading each verse. If you're to practice the great perfection or Vajrayana practice in general, it is required that you first rely upon a qualified teacher and then receive the corresponding empowerment or transmission and instructions from the teacher. Only after you comprehend the meaning completely will you be allowed to engage in the actual practice. Otherwise, if you were to attend to read and practice certain tantric teachings only through the intellect without following a teacher and receive the corresponding empowerment and instructions, such behavior will only cause great harm to you and rather not bringing any benefit. However, in terms of the 37 practices of Bodhisattva, even if you don't have access to a teacher who can grant empowerment or instructions, you're able to do this practice by yourself. It is such a straightforward teaching that it is convenient to implement. As I mentioned yesterday, teachings, the sacred mantrayana must be kept secret except for those who have received empowerment and maintaining the samaya vows, same as you, and you must not share what you have received with others. But this particular teaching, 37 practices of Bodhisattva, however, is open to all sentient beings regardless of their faculties. There is nothing that you should reserve in terms of the content of this text. The wider it is spread, the far greater benefit it will bring. Wherever it will flourish, all kinds of negative circumstances such as hunger, warfare, conflicts will be eliminated, and people's longevity, wealth, well-being will increase and prosper. So this text provides a necessary method that can bring benefit and happiness in the widest possible sense. This time, the four Dharma centers or any of the listeners in this gathering did not come to me to request this transmission. However, out of a pure altruistic intention to bring you benefit, I decided to give you the transmission of this text, which is a teaching that grants liberation upon hearing. Bonsu Rinpoche called the 37 practices of Bodhisattva as the liberation upon hearing. Well, I don't want to spend too much time, but I think it's essential to still listen to the 37 practices of Bodhisattva. Now, I have received this teaching repeatedly from over 100 great masters because of its passing profundity. I have taken it as my primary practice since a very young age. I've taught it over 1,000 times to hundreds of thousands of people who have karmic connections with me. I do believe offering this transmission to you today can bring you benefits as well.
念个传承，可能对你们是有帮助的。如果表里如一，
If you
一
intend
直
to
我的
rely
弟
on
子
me
的
and
话呢，
act
都应该
as
将
a
他
truthful
所有的词句
disciple,
背
you
下
should
来
commit
这
the
个是
text to memory.
可能我们这边呢要求各个那个
Well,
除了有一些净土班的以外的话呢，大家都把
I
佛子
really
性应
hope
该背下
that
来，好吧？
all of you can
什么时候
memorize
背完
it,
你
other
们
than
根据
those
自
who
己的
are
情况
of
来
really senior age
定嘛
or
这个以
in
前我
the
们的
pure
这个道友都会背下
in
来的，
the
但现在的不知道
practice of
怎么样呢？
pure
到时候
realm
我们
of
再
Amitabha.
看看什么时候这个
We'll
大家
see
安排一下，
when
好吧？
we
虽然
will
每
have the
天
opportunity
实
to
修
check
它的
the
全部念
recitation.
是有点困难，但
While you
我
may
要
not
求
be
呢
able to
至
practice
少
the
要发
instructions
愿
of the
每
entire
天
text
呢
on the
修
daily
一个
basis,
颂子，一个
please
偈颂。
aspire
其
to
实我们每个
practice
人
at
的
least
是不
one
能见的，
stanza
如果
every
能见
day.
着，
This is
比
my
如说
requirement
今
of
天
you.
佛
Well,
子行里面
if
的第
you
一个
can
颂
memorize
子，
even
然后
one stanza
明天的第二个
of
颂子，35天
per
当中
day, that would
佛
be
子行
really
所有的
wonderful.
修
It
行
is
的话
not
呢，都
that
考虑一
difficult
下
at
里
all.
面的内容
And if
啊，
you can
大家都
contemplate
知道，
upon one
如果
verse
我
per
们
day,
我们也就这样吧，
that would be
从
very
今天开
beneficial
始，
to you.
每个人的是
So
37
beginning
天
from
当中，每
today
天要
for the next
想一想，
37
读一
days,
下，
I
他
hope
真正
that
的
you
修为的
can
话呢，
read
比如说第一
one
个偈
verse
颂
per
里面是
day
什么？
and
因为
then
它有
to
37颂嘛，
memorize one verse
37颂的
today.
话呢，看看大家就
In
是
37
也
days, you
想
should
一
be
想，
able to
就
complete
这个
it.
不是那么难吧？就
It
最
is
好是
really
比如
not
说你
that
如
difficult.
果什么其他的背诵啊实在
If
困
you
难
were
的
to
话呢，
have a
那么
lot
就
of
今天开
other
始我们要跟着法王
recitations,
的脚步吧，不然的话这些
you're
法听了以后，
exempted,
我们也没有
but
去想，
I
没有
think it
去
is
这样的话呢，
necessary
大
for
家
us
也
to
种下
follow
三
the
根而已，
guidance
就
of
是不浪
Khenpo
费时
Sodargye
间。
and
我们这个
then
37颂法王
to
要求，凡是是属
recite
于
the
他的传
37
承弟子的
practices.
话呢，
Khenpo
全部要每天修
Sodargye
的有点
required
困
his
难的，
lineage
至少是
disciple
每天都是
to
要
at least
思维一下，
contemplate
那思维的话
some
呢，我们
of
大家
the
一起
teachings
来
from this
37天当
text.
中，有些人
If
可能
we
一
can
下子
do
就念
that
完了，就我
in the
37
next
天已经念完
37
了，
days,
会不会这
that
样
would be
也不
really
好说的，
wonderful.
看
I
看
hope
吧，
that
大
you
家
don't
就
just
尽力的，
brush
也不要
it
有压力，
off
太
and
大的
doing
压
it
力的话呢，大家有上
half-heartedly
心，就是
over
在没有
the
压力的
entire
情况
text
下，
in
开
one
心
day.
的情况下，
I
愿
hope
意的
that
情
you
况
can
下，
try your
身体好的
best
情况
without
下，
too
不打
much
瞌睡的情
pressure,
况下。刚才有一
not
个道友一直
dozing
打瞌睡，
off,
所以我讲的这
and
个下午
in
后
this
面部分
way
讲的一直
contemplate
讲的不
upon
好，
the
所
37
以这个呢
practices.
不怪我，
I noticed
然后
someone who's
我一直
dozing off,
有关注，一
and
直关注，然
that's
后呢，
part of the reason why I didn't give a good
是这
teaching in the
个
second
女
half
众那
of
边
the
的，不是
class.
男众这边的。
Someone in the
男众这
female
边的
side.
有一个人稍微有
The
点困，
male
但是后
side,
来他就
a
调整过
person
来了，他
got
喝了
a
2
little
口
bit
水就好
tired,
了。
but he
没事吧，就是有时候是
had a
会
sip
这
or
样的，
two
但一
of
般
the
是打瞌
water,
睡就
and
会
then
容
he
易
woke up.
断
Well,
传承，就是大
I
家
hope
也
that
会
you
尽
don't
量的
doze
不要
off,
这个
otherwise
断
you
传承。
could
好，今天
stop
讲到
your
这
our
里。
transmission. Let's stop here today.